Hey everyone, it's Fabek here, and we're doing a little Polar PD asynchronously because we know life happens and we have other duties, whether it's coaching, parenting, or maybe we just we're not feeling well and we missed our Polar PD staff meeting. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over kind of the big learning, the why, and next steps for you, and I'll highlight some things along the way. So come join me for some Polar PD. All right, so here we go. The agenda. So by the end of the staff meeting, our big goals were being able to define culturally responsive teaching, identify characteristics of dependent and independent learners, and understand that the end goal of growing our CRT practice is to teach our students how to learn, or what the book calls building intellective capacity. So that's kind of that big one, the overarching, our why. And as we continue to go through the book and continue throughout the year, we're going to learn some skills and strategies to further strengthen our students' intellective capacity. So I'm just going to pause and show you really quick here. We got a few tools that we used, and I'll highlight some things of where to find stuff on our Schoology board. So just 1 second. Ooh, there we go. So on our Schoology page, you'll see we have our North High Professional Development. Oh, the Wi-Fi issues. Hold up. There we go. In our September folder, you'll see there's a thing in here called Graphic Organizer. This graphic organizer is what we used for our reflective thinking. Okay, so if you have this, you can make a copy and type on it, type some notes and reflections, and then later on I'll talk about these last few questions at the end. But that's where you would find our staff PD for September, and there's also some other things in here, as long as I'm here, for after, of a little bonus PDs. So those are these are 3 different discussion boards, since our next meeting won't be till October, to help us get our minds flowing. For those who are a little bit more curious, those who are wanting to have more of a conversation, we can post these. We got a short article, a podcast, and a video to give us some perspectives of this whole culturally responsive teaching and what it all looks like. Okay, so that's all in our North High Professional Development course in our September staff PD. All right, so let's bounce back to where we were before, and here we have it. So on that first reflective question, one of the things that we might want to jot down is just, what is this culturally responsive teaching meaning to you? What does it mean? Okay, so if you want to pause the video here and just write down a few bullet points, it'd be a great way to do some self-reflection. And we'll just keep going since this is asynchronous. So I want you to read this quote, and I'll read it aloud as well, but just take this quote into our PD. While the achievement gap has created the epidemic of dependent learners, CRT is one of our most powerful tools for helping students find their way out of the gap. And that is directly from our author, Zaretta Hammond. And so when we think about this idea of this epidemic of dependent learners, what does that really mean? And how does that affect us in our classrooms here at North? So the book that we're going through is Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain. So we're going to do a little bit of the science and art of teaching. As a science person, you know I love it. Chapter 3 gets more into the brain-based ideas. But ultimately, this whole book is to reflect on and grow our teacher practice. And there's 2 distinct characteristics that we have to have. We have to have a mindset to grow our mental attitudes that shape our interpretation and response to students. And then we need our skill set to implement culturally responsive strategies into the classroom to grow our students into independent learners. So all of us who are reading this book, even myself, I can't say that I'm an expert on CRT teaching. I'm still learning along the way, and I'm still in this continuum, right? If we think of learning as always as a continuum in our equity mindset of growing and growth, there's always things to learn, and some of our other teachers and who are reading this for a second time are picking up new things along the way. So I encourage us to have that mental attitude to shape our response and our interpretation. So we'll talk about what to do along the way as you're reading later on. One of the characteristics that we are focused on is independent versus dependent learners, and we used a Jamboard for that. So if you'd like to pause the video, and in that graphic organizer there's 2 sections there, you could pause here and jot down a few of your own perceptions of what a dependent learner would be. What is a characteristic? What's it look like and sound like in your specific classroom? And do that self-reflection to help us process these 2 terms, okay? I'll show you right now. So here we go. This is what everyone in the PD did. We used Jamboard. Jamboard's a great tool. I can talk to you more about it if you want to learn how it could work in your classroom. And there's also on our PD course a folder for Jamboard on how to get it all set up. But this is what our teachers identified as characteristics of dependent learners. So take a moment just to look through those. As you can see, dependent, right, requires the help of something else, and that cognitive load that we were talking about, they are students who explicitly needing their hands held, if you will, or just that intensive guided practice. They need help problem solving. They may feel insecure and unsure, and so when we think about behaviors they might exhibit, some of the teachers talked about shutting down. If something is not explicitly shown, like perhaps their resource is different, they give up, or they immediately need your help and have you do the problem solving for them, right? Some of them are only focused on points rather than the learning aspect of it, okay? Whereas independent learners, they may need some guidance from the teacher, but they may start with getting it, right? Running with it, start that problem solving, turn and talk to their partners and say, hey, what do we do here? This is different. What do you think? They're more organized and maybe disciplined. They may have some of those self-starting study skills that they know how learning works for them and what to do. Being advocates for themselves, having that growth mindset, and a risk taker in a positive way. I like how we said that as a team, because taking risks is a positive thing, right? And so this is what we identified as characteristics, and you may see that in your classrooms, whether it's, you may see some groups that have independent learners and some that have more dependent learners, and that changes how you may interact with them and what scaffolds you have for your growing of those students. So from the book we can see that this is directly from them. Dependent learners, just like our staff identified, unsure how to tackle tasks. The teacher is the one driving or carrying that thinking for them. A lot of scaffolding. They may sit back and wait for you to come around and get them going. And then it's not that they're not really retaining the information, right? They don't get it. And that may be because they're waiting for somebody to help push them and help get them what they are supposed to do. And so our goal as a school here is to be independent learners. We want them to rely on the teacher a bit, but not completely. We want them to take over the cognitive load once we've kind of got them going, if you will. Or we model something and they get going, right? We want them to be their own driving force in their education. So they're going to utilize those strategies that we're modeling and teaching them in the classroom and then apply them to other classes, right? Annotations in ELA, how does that look like in social studies or science? Doing some interpretations of artist renderings, or perhaps what the author's point is, and applying that to our conclusions in science, right? We wanted to have them be able to take all of these thinking strategies and study skills and reflect on what works for them so that they can have long-term memory, long-lasting skills, and be that independent learner, which will pay off more in the end. So what do we want to do with this book? If you want to get the most out of the book, you want to read with intention and purpose. So think about, what is it about our North characteristics? What is it about your specific classroom? Bedazzle that book however you want, whether it's Post-its, highlights, dog ears, what have you, taking notes in a separate notebook or Google Doc, customizing tools and strategies when we get there for your classroom and your pedagogy style, and then taking bite-sized actions, okay? small steps, baby steps, if you will. If it's something new and murky, invite someone else to join with you so you can reflect along the way. Or maybe there's something in there that challenged your thinking, or maybe you hit that bonus PD section and you're taking others along your journey of self-awareness along the way. Our final Namaste talking point or thoughts that we had at PD was building brain power is the missing link to closing the achievement gap for underperforming culturally and linguistically diverse students. Okay, so think about that, and this is the why we're going to this book for growing our pedagogy. So next chapter, or excuse me, next PD in October, we just want you to read the introduction in chapter 1. And then at the end of that graphic organizer, there are 2 questions. Don't worry, we'll remind you along the way of what those questions are when we get closer to, and you will be able to answer them. There are, I believe, at the end of chapter 1 as well. Okay, so this is not goodbye. This is just until the next time. A last final reminder that we had is win time is coming up next week, 9/15. That advisory period, we are teaching students through a video like this to help them sign up for sessions. So we need teachers to create sessions for 9/22, the following week, so that they can have that opportunity. Reminder, you can use the drop-down to find students. We're asking that every teacher ping or tag a minimum of 10 students. If you need help with that, if you go to that one-stop shop, there are the win time resources with screenshots, or you can connect with myself or Gokin, the dynamic win duo that we are. So there we have it. That's our asynchronous PD. I hope to talk with you. Feel free anytime to message me, whether it's Schoology or an email, and I'd be happy to meet with you and go through this more one-on-one, whether it's in Zoom or in person. So have a great time, a great day, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.